Hello, people of the internet, it's Amanda, and for today's video, I'm just going to share my thoughts, my feelings about the pilot episode of Hanyo no Yashahime, which is Inuyasha's sequel, and I'm not particularly sure how this video is gonna go, whether it be a recap or a review or something like that. I feel like it's just gonna be all over the place, just like my other videos about this, or just all the videos here on my channel. But the thing is, I don't want to be too overly technical about the entire thing. I want this to be more of the perspective of someone who's just casually viewing this anime, and not someone who's looked things up a lot or anything like that prior to watching it or prior to making this video. So whatever it is that I miss talking about here, or I don't know, just other details that probably has been posted on the official socials of the anime or something like that. So I probably would miss out on talking about these details because I just want this to be an experience that can also be relatable to people who are not as into the material or not as into the things outside of what's being shown on screen. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I understand that a lot of people might come into these videos expecting very intricate type of discussions about the narrative or anything like that, but that's just not how we do it here. I'm really more of just a casual talker when it comes to the experience in watching these types of things, and I feel like I'm not gonna make a video for every single episode. Probably gonna be checking into the series once in a while, but since the pilot is pretty special, since I've been looking forward to this ever since it was announced, so thus the making of this video. But anyway, so with that said, let's just get to it. Before we start, I want to just briefly mention the OP of this anime. What's interesting to me is, and I've talked about this in my previous videos as well, is that back when I was younger, V6 changed the world. That was sort of how my consciousness of J-music started, even before I knew what J-music was or any songs were. And I mean, I feel like it's the same thing with, say, the OP for Voltes 5 for people who are in the previous generation for me, like international fans in a way. So that song was kind of special to me, and when Yashahime was announced, I was looking forward to whether or not they're gonna bring them back, because V6 is still pretty much active. They're celebrating their 25th year this year, and I was sort of hoping that they would bring V6 back for this. But what's interesting is that they got SixTONES for this one instead, and if you don't know, SixTONES and V6 belong to the same agency, which is Johnny's, and it's kind of nice because SixTONES is definitely their kohais in the agency, and at the same time just in the industry in general, and just to have that transition, especially with the song titled New Era, so it's just fitting for some reason. And the thing with this is that SixTONES, if you don't know, so if you watch Fugo Keiji, then you would be aware that they're also the one responsible for the theme of that, which is Navigator, which is another bop. And just this entire thing of, having them sing the OP and how nostalgic it is for people like me who've seen Inuyasha and have loved the music for that, and then for me to re-experience it again with another group that I'm particularly fond of. So that's just that for just the OP. I honestly felt like New Era is more of a new wave kind of music that people who come into Yashahime for nostalgia would appreciate more. I'm not saying Inuyasha itself isn't exactly targeted for children, but the way that I experienced it, I was pretty young when I was around 9 years old when I watched Inuyasha for the first time, and it's interesting because the music of that is something that resonated with me a lot as a kid. For New Era, it felt to me like it was a song that that would resonate more with a with an older audience, but I honestly, like, I'm not saying that it's not good or anything like that. I absolutely think it's beautiful, it's a bop, and it's pretty interesting. And a lot of people probably are diving into Yashahime because of their prior knowledge with Inuyasha, so there's definitely that connection, and I really hope that New Era resonates with newer viewers as much as Change the World resonated with me back then, when I was initially watching the original anime. Now, with the OP out of the way, let's talk about, the actual episode. So it starts off immediately with Towa being interrogated as to whether or not she's really, the Yashahime, or the half demon princess, and it's because of this entire lore happening that which is the legend of Kagome coming from a different time and sort of like fighting demons with Inuyasha and this entire thing, and she was being interrogated whether or not she was who they're looking for and what happens to the shogunate and everything like that. And I initially thought, like, my initial expectations of this, especially with all the teasers that they kept on, like, pushing out, is that we're immediately going to jump right into the story of Setsuna, Towa, and Moroha. But I didn't expect that they would really, like, look back on the original characters from the first series. Like, I was just literally screaming name after name after name as they were popping up on screen. And I don't know, it was just pretty interesting to me that they went with this direction. I didn't expect it at all. I'm not sure if anyone did. But for me personally, like, I jumped right into it with the expectation that, they're gonna lead us on with the mystery as to what happened with the original cast or anything like that. Like, that's how they're gonna loop us into this entire narrative. But what surprised me is that almost the entire episode was dedicated to looking back and reintroducing the characters from the original series. What was the main highlight for me specifically is that even the main conflict, which is the root head monster demon, was so fixated in the idea that of the Shikon jewel, mainly because he was in a slumber back when the entire narrative of the first series happened, and so he wasn't aware that Kikiyo is no longer alive and that the Shikon jewel is already destroyed and anything like that. So it's kind of interesting because we sort of like dive deep back into that entire narrative that's pretty much familiar for everybody who's seen the original anime. Another thing that I absolutely love about this is that it is filled with a lot of references that we came to love from Inuyasha, but at the same time it still felt fresh in a way because it jumps right off from how the final act ended. I'm so amused with the entire dynamic of how Kikiyo, even if she's passed away already, there's still this tension. She still brings in this tension between Kagome and Inuyasha, and there's still this idea that people still mistake Kagome for Kikiyo, and that causes her to like push out this idea that no, we're different people. That's not my name. I'm different than her, and it was really more of like focusing on her power now as a priestess in training, as compared to, this entire look back between Kikiyo and herself and all the parallels and everything like that. I just love this entire idea that, it brings me back again to my 9-year-old self being so invested with the whole Inuyasha, Kagome, Kikiyo love triangle thing that keeps on happening. And just, I don't know, that's just... that just brought out so many feels while I was watching the episode. It was also very, very interesting how like Miroku and Sango's dynamic was, and their kids are just so cute. It's I don't know, it's very, very exciting for me to just see how that is, especially since it was teased in the end of the final act that they now have children. And just every recurring thing here is fascinating to me. But one thing that I felt like was really, really interesting and funny is the fact that when Sango was wondering, why weren't they being attacked, and then they sort of like leave the house and stuff, and they found out that Sashomaru was apparently there. Obviously, Jackin was doing all the yapping, saying that, Sashomaru couldn't care less about this entire thing. He was just merely, watching and stuff. But then Sango was quick to notice, which I found really funny, was quick to notice that Sashomaru was there. And it was sort of like implied in Sango's thought process that he was there to protect them because Rin was staying in the village. And I don't know, so for session shippers out there, I feel like they're slowly easing it into the reveal that Rin is really the mother of the twins. I'm sure that a lot of people are still debating about this even until now. Like, I see my past videos about Yashahime Inuyasha, where people are still debating so much about the dynamic between Rin and Sashomaru. But I don't know, like, that bit alone definitely made me feel like everybody who are outside of that fight with Roothead are characters that were teased to us that are gonna be active players in Yashahime's narrative. So just looking by that alone, so I feel like that's a massive clue. Like Sango, Miroku, Kagome, and Inuyasha, they were all like in the battle against the Roothead demon, and so like that divide in itself sort of like shows us who's gonna be in the narrative and mainly, and who's not gonna be in the narrative. And I feel like that bit showing Sashomaru, looking after the village because Rin is there, that's another thing, that's another clue there. So yeah. Now overall, I just want to say that I didn't expect this episode to be as nostalgic as it is. I was expecting to watch this and to have some of my questions answered as to what happened, who is responsible for what, or anything like that. And sure, I expected a bit of nostalgia, like during that scene where they showed the bone eater well, and Inuyasha reaching out his hand, and then Kagome pops up. Like, that scene is so vivid to me, and I thought that was the only bit that they're gonna use to look back on the original series. So to find out that almost the entire episode or the entire pilot is dedicated to just looking back at the original, like the OG cast in a way, that just sent me a lot of feelings, a lot of just everything, just rushing back from when I was younger, watching and enjoying the series. And it made me want to look forward more to what else is there. And all the skepticism about the series sort of like got eased a bit, maybe because of the biases that was brought in by the pilot. But I don't know, I feel like they're gonna jump right into the actual narrative for episode 2. So I'm pretty excited as to how that turns out. And we're going to get a new dynamic of like powerful jewels in this storyline as well, because of how it's been teased in the opening theme and then the ending theme, and also like the preview for next episode. So I'm pretty excited to find out about that. Now, anyway, so with that said, I don't know, tell me down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this particular pilot? I know that this isn't exactly a recap, but more of just my thoughts and reactions to the pilot, but I still hope that you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Then if you're tuned to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again soon in a new one. Bye!